I'm Lakita Wilson, and I'm from Maryland, a little city outside of Washington, D.C. And by day, I'm a college professor and I teach early childhood education. So I teach all of the teachers how to work with young children. And by early morning and night, I write middle grade, and I write middle grade, a little YA. I sprinkle in a little nonfiction, and I just try to write as much for young children up to young adults as I can.
Sure. And so Steve Audience loves a good origin story. What's the first time you can remember thinking, I want to be an author someday?
Okay, well, that's an interesting story, actually. Apparently, I was a very dramatic child who wanted to write stories before I could spell. So my mother recently found like all of these stories I'd written just with notebook paper stapled together. And the very first story I wrote was about a little boy who had trouble making friends. So I almost feel like I started writing Macy Weaver at like 6, because that plot to I Am Sam was eerily similar to Be Real Macy Weaver. So he wanted friends. He was going about making friends all of the wrong ways. And I'm like, have I had this idea in my head for like 30 odd years? But I kind of started as a little kid. My mom watched a lot of soap operas when I was a kid, and they were always sort of in the background. And I tend to write with a good amount of drama sprinkled in there because I think I have a little background with The Young and the Restless. So it's kind of.
When you've got a young adult novel coming out next year, right? Last Chance Dance?
Yes, I just found out that it's coming out in February, the month of love, and it's a little rom-com. So
are we going to see some of that soap opera drama unfold within Last Chance Dance?
it's so much drama. It is treachery and betrayal and enemies and heartbreak. It's a lot. It's a lot going on in there. But at the core of that story is finding what's in your heart, finding the right people that should be in your life, and learning to let go and start anew. So there's a lot of fun moments in there, but I think it's also a lot of empowerment for anyone who, feels like I've been in this pattern for so long and this is where I should be. I think it encourages people to know that starting new isn't always, it's a little scary, but it's not, it's definitely possible.
There's some drama, of course, in Be Real Macy Weaver as well, but not nobody gets slapped with a big emotional moment.
My editor made me take out the slaps because
will there be slaps in Last Chance Dance, or is that a spoiler?
Are there any slaps? There are some, it's some like chair scooting, like someone goes into someone's purse when, you're supposed to ask first. And, there's a little classroom tit for tat in there. So it'll be a little something.
So how does Lakita Wilson go from writing, I Am Sam? Sam is not Sam, no friends for Sam. What was the
I am Sam. I just kept the title simple.
I Am Sam. How do you go from there to getting serious? When does that start to look like when you think, oh, you know what, I could actually be an author?
You know what? I did not think that writing was like a real career that I could do, even though I almost feel like teachers were always planting that seed from day one. In my school system, like Prince George's County Public Schools, we had a lot of writing programs. So we had like write a book with, well, not even write a book would come, but like the program was embedded into our program. And we would take like a couple of hours a day and we would like work on stories, and then we would actually produce the book. Like we would actually bind it, display it, have others read it. And so like I had those moments. I know in like the 6th grade, we had writing workshop where we would spend 45 minutes writing pieces, and then the class would like critique it. So I don't know why I still didn't think that like being an author was a real career, but it seemed so far removed, like, you know, like where I'm from, or just, you know, within my own family, it was, you know, you get a sensible job so that you can make money and provide for your family. And so like, while my mom was always like, oh, you have like a flair for the dramatics, like you should get into acting, like that was like some hobby stuff. Like she wasn't saying like, make that a career. She was just saying, oh, you should dabble in acting, but get a real job. So I did not think that, that it was possible. Like I even worked in an independent bookstore, like in high school. And I saw authors come in and out of there all the time, like Karibu Books in Maryland. And I still didn't think it was possible. So time sort of went by. I got a sensible job. I became a teacher, then I became a college professor. And then one day, I wanted one of my friends that I thought, because she had taken a couple of writing classes, I was like, oh, like let's write something together because you're the expert. And so I like tried to get her to write with me, and she was taking too long. So like I was like, all right, well, I'll just start it off. And so I was like, all right, I'm like writing a couple paragraphs, and like, you know, so I got like a page done and then another page, and I'm like, hey, like, are we gonna like, you know, get this done together? And then she, you know, she had a lot going on and she just couldn't do it. And you know, I got to like the middle of it and I was like, oh, I'm writing a story. And so I tried to put it together. It wasn't very good. I tried to query it. You know, I had interest, but I didn't like, my craft wasn't where it should have been. And so I went back to school, got an MFA, and got really serious about how can I insert myself into publishing and be someone that could be like on an editor's radar. So that's what I did.
I'm always curious about that moment because there's nothing like that first book. I have never written a book in my own mind as good as my very first one because I was convinced it was perfect until other people told me it wasn't.
Yeah.
Was that your experience, or when did you realize that, oh, look at me, I can absolutely do this, but I need to improve?
I have a very weird backdoor way that things happened for me. Somehow, you know, I was writing that story, and in the back of my mind, I was like, well, if I ever finish this story, I need to have an audience. I need to have people that will buy the book. So I need to have like a group of people that will be excited about the book coming out. And so way before I should have been thinking about it, I started an Instagram page. I got really into Bookstagram, and I got a pretty good following going for a while. And I kept saying like, oh, there's this book that's coming out. And at the same time, I was like displaying like diverse books, and I was doing all of these different things. And I would just, you know, I would say, hey, this book. Then I had some artwork commissioned for the book. I was just like spending money that should not have been spent. So like that's you know, writers don't commission artwork before you even finish. Don't commission artwork at all. Just write the story. But I did that. And when I put it online, an editor from HarperCollins was like, oh, those are really nice drawings. Like she emailed me, and I definitely thought it was a scam because why would, you know, an editor from New York email me. So I like looked at the name on the email, and I looked it up, and it was a real editor. And so I emailed her back, and I was like, yeah, I do have this middle grade. It was about something entirely different. And she was like, well, just send it to me. And when I sent it, it was not ready. And she was super nice about it. Like, she was like, okay, well, and so that didn't work out. But someone else told me, she was like, why are you giving a manuscript to an editor? You need to have an agent. You don't just go about this alone. You need representation to make sure that if they, are interested in acquiring your story, that your contract is right and all these, you need an advocate. So she put me in contact with an agent, and that agent gave it to me straight. She was like, this is not ready. You might need a developmental editor. She was like, but this is not the time. You need to go and like withdraw that manuscript from that editor and work on this some more. And so I did. And I continued to work on it. I entered the story into a contest. It was with SCBWI. And I did that on a whim because I think at that time, I wasn't really getting any hits from other agents, because I think some months had passed. I like worked on it, submitted it to that original agent. She had said like, no, I'm just going to pass. I remember all the agents were like, no, 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 no. I was all sad about it. And then I want to say like that next February, it was like a cold day in February. I was like, no one likes me or my book. Lynn Oliver called from SCBWI and was like, oh, hi, Lakita. Like, you won this contest. And I'm like, no, are you sure? I literally said to her, are you sure? Because I had gotten rejected. I was like, and then I'm all like, but no agents like me. And she's like, oh, agents are subjective, blah, blah, blah. She's like, but you won this contest. Like, she's like, take the winnings. So all of that happened. I was still trying to query. I was going to school. And so in a perfect storm sort of way, I got my craft together. I wrote more stories. And finally, an agent was like, okay, I'm willing to take the story on. She did not take on that original story, though. The one that I won the contest, the middle grade story that I won the contest with, like that one is still sitting collecting dust in in my desk somewhere. Like that never went anywhere. But I took all of that experience. One day in the middle of my MFA program, I was like, I'm going to just start a brand new story. And that ended up being Be Real Macy Weaver. So.
And that was the 2017 Emerging Voices Award that you won. Is that right?
Yeah, I won that for a story about a little girl who didn't have, there weren't enough diverse books in the classroom, which was like sort of going along with that Bookstagram page that I had. And a lot of agents liked the idea because, it was so much conversation around that at that time that they were all like, yeah, we want it. And then as soon as they would get it in their inbox, they were like, I don't know. Let's just put that, like, you need to go back to school or something, like, go ahead and work on that a little more. So maybe one day I'll be able to like pick it back up and do something with it. But sometimes, like if you have spent years and years and years on this, like one manuscript, and you have ripped it apart and put it back together so many times that it looks like Frankenstein, honestly, like I believe that the best thing to do is to release and let it go and start on something new. Because I realized when I started on a new novel, all of the things that I had learned like in my MFA program and by revising and through like agent feedback, I was able to use those new skills on that new novel, where it was really hard to apply those skills to that you know, that novel that I had been working on for years because I was too deep in it at that time, I think.